Let's jump right into this, okay? First, we're going to open up Unity Hub. After that's open, let's go over a few features. Projects is where your projects are. You can select an old project, change a project's Unity version, add a project from the folder, make a new project with the current version you're using, which gives you different options like 2D, 3D, 3D with extras, and the different render pipelines, which give different features. Make sure to check that out. And you can select a specific Unity version because they all have different things. They have different bugs. It's essential to know what you want. On the Learn tab, you can get some excellent tutorials on basic games to learn Unity. Community is just some posts, and installs is important because you can add new installs and update your Unity version. But it's not recommended to update to something super recent because there are lots of bugs. So make sure to use something that you're comfortable with. I personally use 2019.4.8 F1 because it has a dark mode and it's long-term support. I'm going to go ahead and open up example 1 project, and it takes a bit to load. I'll see you when it loads. That wasn't that bad. That was just a few seconds of loading. Let's go over this. So what is every tab? We're going to go over real quick a bunch of these basic tabs. First of all, let's start with the hierarchy. The hierarchy is what exists in the scene that you're currently looking at. All the objects in the scene are going to be displayed right here, and they're the things that are actually in the video game currently. The game view is what your game looks like when you're playing it, and you can see through the main camera lens what it looks like, usually, unless you have multiple cameras. But let's not go over that right now. Next, the project tab is where your assets are. These are scripts, sprites, audio files, and other data that you can place into your project. These are not in the scene. These are accessible from anywhere. The inspector shows properties from the current object you're selecting. So I'm just going to create an empty real quick, and I'm going to name it test. You can name by clicking once, and then you just click once again over the name, and then you can rename it. Right now it has no components. And let me explain what a component is. Transform is the default component, and every object has one. You can reset, you can move to front, back, you can copy it, and you can find all references in the scene, but reset is the most commonly used. You can mess around with these, and this component specifically messes with the position. Adding components is really easy. If you have a script that you have in your project, or you just have a component that you want, you can add a component, and you can either search through it through this selection, which is tedious, or you could just type in sprite render, like that. If you want a sprite render, you can just click it, and voila, you can select sprites and have them in your scene. But I'm not talking about anything specific, it's just you can add anything from here. These are the brains of your objects. Okay. Let's go over some tabs up here. Obviously, help will help you with quick searching, asking about Unity, looking at the Unity manual. While Unity documentation isn't the best, it still helps a bit for beginners. You can check for updates, download betas, manage your license, whether you have Unity Pro or Unity Personal. That's a pretty basic tab. Let's go to File. So File is pretty simple as well. You can have new scene, you can open a scene, and scenes are just the different locations in your game. Imagine that they're rooms, and each room has specific objects Unless stated, the objects specifically stay in that room. They don't move around. So yeah, you can open one. These are the ones that you should definitely know some shortcuts for. Always save with Control S. Always, always, always save with Control S. You really want to save as much as you want, and it'll become a habit once you be doing this a lot. You can create a new project, but usually you do this from the Unity Hub. And these two are really interesting. Build settings are basically your final game. When you've spent a lot of time and you're ready for your game to be released, you can pick what platform you want right here, as long as you install it from the Unity Hub, and select it. You can switch to that specific platform, and then you can click Build and Run, and it will build and run as a file, depending on what platform you're on. For example, if you switch to iOS and you build and run, it actually can't run because you are not on iOS system. Very overcomplicated, but you'll get it. Build and run is just for quickly building and running your game in case you just want to be testing some builds of your game. Let's go to edit. These are a lot of shortcut oriented. So you can go Control C to undo, Control Y to redo. You should really know these two well. You can select all with Control A, deselect all with Shift D, select the children, select the prefab root, and prefabs are special. They're just objects that go into your hierarchy. Make sure to check out videos on YouTube about prefabs. They're really nice. You can invert your selection, select everything that's not what you're currently selecting. Maybe kind of confusing, but I'll explain it right now. Say you have, and here's a good shortcut, Control D duplicates an object. Say you have 3 of these game objects. I wanna select 2 of them. I hit Control I, and I'm gonna select the opposite, which is the main camera and the other game object. So I have never really used this, but it may be somewhat useful. You can cut, copy, and paste the basics. If you've ever typed in a Word document, a Google document, you'll know what this is. Again, the duplicate super functional, super handy. You can rename, delete, and these are not as relevant. You can sign in, clearing all the player prefs. Player prefs are save data, but that's more complicated. And the last one that really is important is the grid and snap settings. You can change how it snaps to snap. You can move objects around while holding control, and it'll snap its position. Under assets, you can find some different things. For example, you can create a variety of different assets in your it'll appear in your project folder. Very useful. You can show in Explorer, which is especially useful for quickly importing assets from Photoshop, etc. Okay, you can re-import all, and that's, I think, for packages, and that's something different, not for now. Perfect. Game object. Game object basically allows you to create a game object in this hierarchy, so you can create a variety of different things, and I'm going to go over them. You're going to go create empty, just creates some empty thing. This can be used to sort in your project, hold some data that you just want not to have physical, visible attributes, etc. If you hit create empty child, just a child. For example, if you are selecting this and you hit game object create empty child, it'll create an empty child of that specific game object. Children are just parented to the parent. That's a bit redundant. They move around and rotate, etc. with the parent. Game object. You can select a lot of 3D objects, a lot of 2D objects. Unity's particle system, favorite. You can do some lighting, audio, video, user interface, and camera. So these are the things that you can create in this hierarchy here. Under component, You can add components. For example, if I want to go component and I want to add let's see, a rigid body 2D. I can simply select rigid body 2D and it'll appear here. You can also search up rigid body 2D under this. It won't let me add it because it already has a rigid body on it, but you can add it from here. So it's really useful. Window. These are some windows that you can use. All of these you can drag around, pop out, pop back in. My workflow is saved as Alex's Lounge 2. I like this one, but you can select different layouts of windows because different people like to look at the scene in a different way. Large screen, this is one of my custom ones, so I can just have it so that it's large and I can edit a few properties. And I mean, that is pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed. Hope this was very helpful in starting out, getting used to Unity. I'll leave some links below in the description for some really good resources on getting to know Unity better, starting some projects out. Anyway, have fun.